During the summertime, all around the island of Sodor, there is an annual boat regatta where sailboats race or enjoy their time out in the ocean. At Arlesburg harbour, Skiff the Railboat had just finished giving another railboat tour with guests when he noticed the sailboats out in the ocean. Thomas was bringing in passengers to join in the celebration when he noticed Skiff sighing sadly.
What's happening, Skiff? Are you okay?
Oh, Thomas, I'm glad to have my own line and all, but sometimes I do miss being out in the ocean.
But I thought you said you don't like putting your face in the water that much.
That's only if the water is very choppy and rough, but on a calm day like today, I wish I could join those boats and go sailing again, instead of being on dry land, which, in my opinion, is not the life for a sailboat like me.
You know, you kind of remind me of Duck who dreamt of being out at sea too.
The guard suddenly blew his whistle and Thomas puffed away. As he rolled down the line, he came up with an idea to help his friend. The next morning, Skiff's new young driver named Jim came to get him ready for another rail tour when Sir Topham Hatt arrived.
You'll have to postpone your rail tours today, Skiff, because I'm letting you do something different.
Really, sir?
Thomas has told me everything last night, and I believe that there is something for you to do out at sea. During the boat races, I want you to be in charge if anything goes wrong, and if that happens, I want you to assist them and alert help.
But isn't that Captain's job, sir?
Yes, but apparently, he is busy on the other side of the island and won't be here on time for the first race, which will start in half an hour.
Yes, sir. I will accept the job, sir.
Excellent. You better get in the water soon. The other boats will line up by the red buoy, ready for your signal.
Skiff was most excited. Jim removed Skiff's sign, and it took some time to get Skiff into the water, but the little sailboat was happy to be back in the sea. It was a bright sunny day, and the wind was blowing at such a good speed. Skiff didn't mind when the waves splashed against his face, but Jim guided him to a spot close to the red buoy. Soon the other sailboats began lining up next to each other till everything was set.
Welcome all to the second day of Sodor's annual regatta. Join us today as the lookout is Skiff, whom you'll remember as the whaleboat on dry land. Well, today he is assisting us in the race. Now on to the competitors. Number 21 is...
What Skiff nor Jim knew was that a competitor under the name of Michael was one of Jim's schoolmates. Michael is one of the most popular seniors at Sodor High, and he was one of those students who like to cheat.
Ready, Skiff?
Ready as out. I'll ever be.
Competitors, take your marks. Skiff, prepare the signal.
With what? I don't have a horn or whistle.
Don't worry, we can just say, ready, set, go.
Oh, that easy? Well then, ready, set,
go!
And the boats began charging across the water. Michael put his plan into action by bumping the side of his boat against another competitor's boat, who was alongside Michael's. With a splintering crack, Michael's boat had opened a hole in the opponent's side. As Michael sped past, the opponent's boat began to sink, and soon the sailor was treading water.
Later, loser!
Hey, you cheated!
Jim and Skiff saw what had happened, and they rushed to the sailor's aid. Jim helped the sailor climb on board Skiff, but the sailor was wet and cross.
That jerk rammed into my boat's side and caused it to sink!
We should inform the judges.
Not now, Skiff. We have to continue as lookout.
But Skiff wanted to help and make sure no other boats were damaged. In fact, Michael had already bumped into another sailboat and it spun off course. Jim saw what had happened and decided to confront Michael.
Come on, Skiff. Let's go stop him.
Since Skiff was smaller than the other sailboats, he sped along the water faster than any of them. Back on shore, Sir Topham had some engines and people were confused of Skiff's actions. They thought he was joining the race. When Skiff finally reached Michael's boat, Michael thought Jim was joining the race as well and was beating him.
Oh no you don't, you little twerp!
Michael was about to hit Skiff, but the little sailboat was quick enough to move out of the way. However, Skiff bumped into the rubber of the sailboat and it broke off. Now Michael's boat was out of his control. Skiff watched with horror as Michael's boat went off course and was heading to shore, where hundreds of people were standing. Some of them shrieked and began running out of the way as the boat came closer to shore.
Abandon ship!
Michael jumped clear of his sailboat and into the shallow water just when his boat crashed into a small dock. It crawled along the shoreline, which almost ran over several people, till it finally came to a complete stop. Skiff and Jim, however, were shocked at what just happened.
Oh dear.
The accident caused the next race to be delayed for the next day, as workers cleaned up the mess from the shore of Arlesburg. Later that evening, Michael was most furious with Skiff and Jim about his boat.
You saw what happened! That good-for-nothing piece of driftwood has damaged my boat and almost killed several people!
Luckily no one was hurt.
Jim whispered to Skiff.
I understand your concern, Michael, but according to another competitor, you crashed into his boat, which meant you cheated. And cheating means disqualification.
But yeah.
And Michael stormed off the dock, still red in the face. Sir Topham Hatt then turned to Jim and Skiff.
Sir, whatever the damage, I can pay for it.
There's no need, Jim. However, I'll speak to your parents about this and let them talk it from here. And as for you, Skiff, I thought I could trust you to handle this one boat race.
But sir, we were just trying to stop a cheating...
Yes, but you caused several damages and, need I say it, some confusion with the people and delay for the next race. I'm afraid you'll have to go back to your job as a railboat. We don't have time to get you out of the water now, but we'll do it tomorrow morning. Good night to you too.
And Sir Topham Hatt left with Skiff and Jim feeling depressed.
I'm so sorry about this, Jim. It's all my fault.
No, this was my fault too. I steered you into this mess, so we're both in trouble. Oh boy, am I ever going to have a long night with my parents.
I don't want to go back as a railboat. I am a sailboat, and I would prefer to be in the water than on dry land again.
Skiff and Jim stood in silence for a while, till Jim left quickly, as if he went to go get something. When he returned, Skiff saw Jim carrying a sack of supplies.
I don't want to face my parents and get yelled at all night.
Are you saying?
Yep, I'm sailing with you somewhere else. Maybe to my grandmother who lives on the mainland.
But that's a long way from here. We won't survive out in the ocean at night.
If we stay close to shore, we can circle around the island till we reach the drawbridge, and then we can sail alongside from there till we reach my grandmother's summer home. I'm sure she'll be there at this time of the year.
I'm still not sure about this.
Would you rather go back as a railboat on dry land or sail out in freedom?
Skiff pondered this. He didn't want to risk the life of the young teen out in the ocean at night. But after giving some thought, Skiff actually did want to go back as a sailboat. Besides, he thought, the accident made him feel like he didn't belong on Sodo anymore.
Alright. As long as we have a light, we'll be fine.
Luckily, Jim had a lantern.
Got you covered!
Soon, Jim and Skiff departed Arlesburg Harbour and started their risky journey. Back on land, Thomas came to see Skiff, to see how he was feeling. But when he reached Skiff's dock, he wasn't there.
Skiff? Skiff!
Thomas puffed away from the dock and rushed to a nearby station, where Sir Topham Hatt was standing.
Sir, Skiff's not at his dock. Something terrible must have happened to him.
Oh dear. I'll call the Sodor Search and Rescue Centre. Thomas, start searching along the shorelines and see if you could find him.
As Thomas puffed along the track lines that overlooked the ocean, Harold searched from high up and Captain searched out at sea. Meanwhile, Skiff and Jim were a mile from the shore and far from Arlesburg harbour. The water suddenly became very choppy and the wind began to pick up. Skiff could see dark clouds heading towards them.
Jim, we should really get back to land. Something tells me that a storm might be coming. We could be in danger!
Skiff was right, because after he spoke, a crack of thunder rang out. The wind tugged at Skiff's sails so fiercely that the rope might snap. The storm was now over their heads as rain pelted them like hail. The waves tossed them to and fro.
Whoa! I think I'm gonna be seasick.
Suddenly, Skiff saw a pile of rocks up ahead.
Jim, steer us away from those rocks. We might crash and I might sink!
Jim did his best to steer Skiff away, but the wind kept forcing them closer and closer.
Hang on, Skiff!
Jim manoeuvred Skiff through the rock pile, but accidentally bumped into one.
Ouch!
The rock pile surrounding them made the water less rough, and the wind calmer, so Jim and Skiff stayed hoping to wait for the storm to pass. Suddenly, they heard shouting.
Help!
Nearest to them was a large sailboat stuck between several rocks. The sailor was shouting and trying to get their attention.
Please help! I can't get my boat unstuck!
What can we do to help?
You're simple and small enough to come over here. Then I can hook my boat with yours and you can help it pull it free.
Well, we can try.
But I'm not a tugboat, and I don't know if I'm strong enough. I'm just a small sailboat.
Skiff, you're not just a small sailboat. You're the small sailboat. I have faith in you, and besides, this wind can maybe help us.
Alright, let's do this!
Jim drove Skiff closer to the stranded sailboat till the sailor tossed a rope at Jim. Then Jim tied the rope on Skiff's mast and then opened Skiff's sail to let more wind push them. Skiff pulled his hardest till inch by inch the large boat began to budge.
Easy now! Don't damage it!
Thunder rumbled loudly as Skiff pulled and pulled. The wind whistled and tugged at Skiff's sail as Skiff worked his hardest. Finally, the sailboat was free from the rocks without much damage.
You did it! Great work! Now let's get out of this storm before the sea swallows us!
Jim untied the rope from Skiff, and the large sailboat started sailing to shore. Skiff started following behind, but the waves were so tall, they almost looked like 10 feet. It wasn't until Skiff saw a large wave heading straight towards them.
Jim, hang on!
The wave crashed down on top of them, and both Skiff and Jim went under the rough ocean. The next morning, the storm had passed, and everything was calm. However, Thomas had returned to Arlesburg harbour with no luck of finding his sailboat friend.
Any reports from Harold or Captain, sir?
Harold retreated to the ground when the storm started because it was dangerous for him to be hovering. Captain did his best, but he couldn't find them either. Thomas, I'm very sorry about this, but no one could have survived a storm like that out at sea.
You can't be serious!
Thomas looked out at the sea sadly, for he had lost a friend. Suddenly, Thomas could see a pin-prick of light in the fog.
Is that...
Jim's parents and Sir Topham Hatt looked out at sea as well, for piercing through the fog was a shape Thomas recognised at once.
Skiff!
Jim!
Skiff and Jim had made it to shore in one piece. However, Skiff's sail was ripped, and some of his boards were coming loose. But the sailboat had reached the dock safely. Jim slowly climbed out of Skiff, feeling cold and wet as he bravely confronted his parents.
Hi, Mom and Dad. I guess I'm in pretty deep now, aren't I?
Jim's parents ignored him and hugged their son tightly in a loving embrace.
We're glad you're safe, son.
But you're grounded for running away.
How did you survive?
Well, we were almost drawn by a humongous wave. We did go under, and I flipped over. But Jim has taken shelter under me. Then the waves guided us closer to shore, and that's when the storm ended. Then Jim flipped me back, which wasn't really easy.
Just then, the sailor who Skiff and Jim saved from the storm approached them.
Oh good, you both survived. I was worried for a moment, but I figured you two master any storm out there. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Luke Rushton.
You're one of the most famous regatta racers ever!
Indeed I am. I was on my way to the main and final race on the last day when that blasted storm just came out of nowhere. I couldn't control my ship and it got stuck between some rocks. But that's when Skiff came along. Without those two, I never would have gotten myself out of there and I would have sunk. Sir Topham, this boy and sailboat are rescuers and I have an reward for their assistance.
What's that, Mr. Rushton?
I would like them to join me on the final race.
Oh! You mean I could take part in the competition?
Absolutely, if that's alright with your controller.
Well, Skiff, I believe you deserve this. After all, everyone deserves a second chance.
Why am I not surprised? You have a cold, son, after being out in the storm most of the night.
But how am I going to race? Without Jim, I have no driver.
Luke Rushton suddenly had an idea.
Why don't I become your driver for the race, Skiff? My boat already have a few scrapes from the storm, and you are small enough to go fast.
Why, that would be an honor, Mr. Rushton.
Later that evening, the weather was better than ever. Jim stayed home in bed, but watched from his bedroom window to see the race. Luke and Skiff were making their way to the starting point, where the other competitors were waiting.
Good evening everybody, and we are hoping for an exciting conclusion to this year's regatta. Now all the way from the mainland is our famous competitor, Luke Rushton. But there appears to be some sort of mistake, because it seems that Mr. Rushton is on a small sailboat that caused yesterday's unfortunate accident.
Go get him, Skiff!
Thanks, Thomas!
As Skiff reached the starting point, he suddenly found Michael on his large sailboat. It was mended the day before, but it still had some scrapes.
Well, well, well. If it isn't the little piece of driftwood that almost ruined my chance of winning. You better watch it, pal, or I'll really scrunch you.
Skiff was terrified.
Don't listen to him, Skiff. Remember, you are the smallest one in line, which means you can go faster than any of them.
And now, Captain, will begin the all clear for the race to start.
Ready, set, go!
And the sailboats took off, with Skiff leading, but suddenly Michael's boat began catching up to Skiff, and started passing him at a fast rate. Luke looked at the end of Michael's boat, and was shocked.
That skunkbag, he is using our motor which is breaking the rules. Keep going, Skiff, I know we can do this.
The wind was blowing well against Skiff's sail. As if two massive hands were giving them a push, Skiff sailed past Michael.
What? How is that possible? You're just a small sailboat.
I'm not just a sailboat. I'm the small sailboat of Sodor.
Skiff approached closer and closer to the finish line. The citizens were cheering and the engines whistled excitedly as Skiff went through the black and white checkered line in victory.
You did it, Skiff! You won!
I did it!
We did it!
Luke Rushton won first place of the last race and the regatta was officially over for the summer. He took home a trophy and Skiff was given a blue ribbon to place on his mast. As for Michael, his parents and judges scolded him for using a motor in the race, which meant disqualification. Luke returned to the mainland, but thanked Skiff and Jim for their bravery, heroism and confidence for the adventures out at sea. Jim got well again and returned to work a month later as Skiff's driver by giving children railboat tours at Arlesburg harbour. Skiff enjoyed his days out at sea, but decided to continue as a railboat.
It's much safer on dry land than out at sea when a storm hits. And I still don't like it when my face is in the water.
I couldn't agree more, Skiff.